Hey everyone, we here at Inebri-art have been talking a lot about making more video content for our YouTube channel. We didn't really feel like we were doing the best that we could, so we've been working on coming up with some stuff, sharing some of the live stream stuff that we've done. And I was actually having a conversation with one of the friends of mine that I play Dungeons and Dragons with, and he happens to play a half orc barbarian chef. And recently, Dungeons and Dragons put out their Hero Feast book, which is a Dungeons and Dragons themed cookbook. And we decided that it'd be fun to cook everything in the book, and we're going to make it all available in videos as we walk through the recipe and show you how easy they are to make. So we started the first one here, and we determined what we're going to make by dice roll. And the book is laid out into um, kind of chapters: human cuisine, elf cuisine, dwarven, halfling, uncommon cuisine, and elixirs and ales. And this first one happens to be from the human cuisine portion. And we decided it by dice roll, of course, because, it's Dungeons and Dragons. And this is the Dark Molasses Nut Bread that we'll be making in today's video. And I'm just going to read the excerpt from the top of it. And it says, "From Silvery Moon to Sharn, variations on this classic loaf, sometimes referred to as black bread, are plentiful, but most agree that this baked treat is at its best when crafted from the sweetest, strongest molasses in traditionally served by the slice with slathered with whipped salted butter on both sides for the brave. This dense and delicious bread, which accompanies many courses at inns across the land, is often filling enough to be a meal by itself." So we're gonna cut to the video and walk you through how we made it. And at the end, we'll talk about a little bit more about what we thought of the bread overall. So here we are, and we're setting the oven for 350 degrees to preheat. And then we're going to get our ingredients and stuff started. We are going to be using an 8.5 by 4.5 inch loaf pan, which we are greasing and flouring so the bread doesn't stick. If you don't want to take this kind of labor in this section, you can always just use a cooking spray or something along the lines. But so we just brushed it with some melted butter, and now we're adding the flour to again coat the inside of the tray just lightly, so it's not, the bread's not going to stick, and will come out easy in the end of the whole process. Now we're going to be combining all our ingredients, and we're starting with 3/4 of a cup of all-purpose flour, and to that we are going to be adding 3/4 a cup of rye flour. Now, rye flour was available at our local grocery store. It wasn't the easiest to find. We did have to kind of make two stops, but it's relatively easy to find. You should be able to find it at your local grocery store, wherever you happen to be living. And we're going to add 3/4 of a cup of that dark rye flour to our bowl. And basically, we're going to be combining all our dry ingredients together in one bowl. And to that, we're going to be adding 3/4 a cup of fine, medium ground yellow cornmeal. Again, this was just available at the grocery store. None of these ingredients were particularly hard to find. Um, we filmed this during COVID time, so the grocery store is a little hit or miss sometimes, but generally speaking, we found everything we needed in one place. So to that um, dry mixture, we're going to be adding 3/4 of a teaspoon of baking soda. I'm sorry, this was half a teaspoon of baking powder. That's where we're starting. And then we're also going to be adding 3/4 of a teaspoon of baking soda as well. And to that, we're also going to be adding 1 teaspoon of kosher salt or any coarse ground salt. You don't want to use a fine, like a table salt, because where it's a much finer grain, you're actually kind of adding too much salt. So if you're really stuck with like a table salt, you can probably just do a little less than a teaspoon. You don't want it to be too salty. And the next ingredient, I'm sorry, we're going to whisk that together to combine all our ingredients there. And the next thing we're going to be adding is 1.5 cups of coarsely chopped toasted walnuts. Well, we didn't have chopped or toasted walnuts. We just had regular walnuts. So we kind of chopped them up and gave them like a quick 5 minutes in the oven because it was already preheating, and 5-10 minutes in the oven, and they're nice and toasted now. And we're just going to add that to the bowl, and using the whisk again, we're just going to mix that up. And now we're going to set that aside, and we're going to move over to our wet ingredients. We're going to be adding 1/4 cup of unsalted, melted and cooled butter. We don't want it to be hot. And we probably should have melted a little more. This is more softened than melted, but it still worked fine. And now we're adding 1 cup of buttermilk. And to that 1 cup of buttermilk, we're going to be adding 1/2 cup of unsulfured molasses, not blackstrap. Apparently, there's a big difference between blackstrap and normal molasses, and I've been trying to look into that and find out exactly why. And I couldn't really figure out what the difference was. So if you happen to know the difference between blackstrap and regular molasses, mention it in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts and see exactly what the difference is. That was one of the extra steps. We did get the wrong kind of molasses and had to go back and get the correct kind. So we're just going to add that to the bowl now. There we go. It's all added in. And now we're just going to use the whisk again, and we're just going to mix that up. And again, you'll see it's a little chunky because of the butter. I think we should have melted a little further, but I don't think it really made a big difference in the end. So just make sure you melt that butter all the way and let it cool. And now you can see they're nice and combined there. And then our next step is adding our dry and wet ingredients. So what we're going to do is make a little well in the middle of our dry ingredients. And about this time, we realized we should have used the opposite bowl for each one. And we're going to add the wet ingredients into that little well in the middle. And we're going to use that little scraper just to make sure we get all the rest of that out. Don't want to waste anything. And now we're going to fold the wet ingredients into the dry just by putting the spatula down along the side and kind of folding the ingredients in. Now we're just going to make sure that dry ingredients gets dampened by the molasses and buttermilk mixture. We don't want to like really mix this up. We just want it basically all wet. So you're going to see basically once all the light color is gone, you're done. Don't continue to mix it. It's very simple. This whole recipe was really simple. This would be a good one to make with the kids. I feel like anyone could really, if you can measure, you're able to make this one. Now we're going to add it to the loaf pan that we previously greased and floured, or if you want, you can use cooking spray. And we're just going to scoop it all out, making sure we don't leave anything behind. And then using that spatula, we're just going to smooth it out, kind of flatten it down, make sure it kind of gets pushed into the corners so it's very even. It'll bake even. And now we're just going to put it into our oven that's already been preheated. We're going to put it in the center rack, and we're going to put it at 350 for 20 minutes. Now 20 minutes has elapsed. We're just going to give it a quick turn. Going to spin it 180 degrees. And put it back in for another 20 to 25 minutes. And then we're going to do the toothpick test to see if it's done. The toothpick should come out clean, which it does. And so we're just going to pull it out and let it cool for 20 minutes. This is a mistake we made. We were hungry, so we didn't wait the full 20 minutes. You're going to see some steam come out of this thing. The second cut crumbles. I think that's because we didn't let it cool long enough. But that is essentially it. Slap some butter on that, and you're good to go. Overall, this recipe was really easy to make. There was nothing difficult at all. Like I said, this would be a great one to do along with the kids. Taste wise, I thought it was excellent. We probably ate half the loaf just sitting there, kind of sampling it with some butter. Um, my one recommendation would be to make sure you have whipped or softened butter. Ours was cold, so it didn't spread well, and it wasn't really firm bread. Again, probably because we didn't let it cool. And so yeah, so it was crumbly. It was a little hard to spread the butter on where it was cold butter. So if you let the butter soften or even throw it in the microwave a little bit, soften it up, you shouldn't have any trouble. This again, I think would make a really hearty bread to go along with a main course of meats, or if you wanted to put it out your next Dungeons and Dragons game, man, I think your players would be impressed. And for the amount of effort that went into this, it was really delicious and very simple to make. So shout out to Roman, our half orc barbarian chef, for making that as I filmed, and stop in again. I This was a lot of fun to make. So the plan is to just roll dice and work our way through the entire cookbook. If you try this recipe on your own, please post pictures or what you thought in the comments. Make sure you like this video and share it so your friends can see it, and subscribe to our channel. We're going to be doing a lot more stuff. So thanks again for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.